Welcome, everyone, to the Captive Audience. I'm Kevin Hoare. It is the 4th of November. It is Election Day 2025. And we basically have the results in from, I think, most everything, at least from what I can see. And here we go. Because tonight doesn't look like it was the best night for Republicans, at least not so far. And that in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City, at least so far, the Democratic candidates appear to be. Well, I should say, in New Jersey and um, Virginia, Democrats have prevailed. In Manhattan, a communist candidate appears to be heading for victory. So let's have at it and kind of get right into what the news headlines are saying. And I'm looking at the Associated Press because that's a lot of the times what they rely upon uh, when we look at election results being called. It's not the only outlet. There are others, but the Associated Press is one, and they don't really say anything right now about that. They do have something in here about Spanberger, which was up here, and now I can't find it. But according to there's a Twitter page that just says 2024 election results, but it's apparently still posting the election results for 2025. And it says Mamdani is going to win the New York City mayoral election. The polls just closed about 10 minutes ago. It says the turnout is in the city is the highest in the city's history for a mayoral race. So I guess they're going to get what they deserve out there in New York City. And it also says here, according to this feed, that Cheryl, the congresswoman who made $7 million and doesn't know where it came from, appears to be heading to victory in the governor's race in New Jersey. Now, this is the 11% of the vote in, which could be from any part of the state. It says Cheryl, 59, Citarelli, 40. But, this isn't really anything close to final results because unlike vote by mail, which, when the ballots come in advance, there's a bunch that get reported that night that have been sitting in bins for days, being ready to be reported at 8 p.m. Here, it looks like, there could be one part of the state reporting and another part not reporting at all and really skew the results. So, but the New Jersey polls closed about an hour ago, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Virginia, the polls closed 2 hours ago. So even though that's Eastern time zone, Virginia, the polls closed at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it shows Spanberger kind of, although it's mostly Northern Virginia, which is near D.C., which is very, very liberal reporting so far, but it shows 56.8% for Spanberger, Winsome Sears at 43%. In the lieutenant governor's race, there's the first Muslim candidate to become lieutenant governor. Hashmi is at 54.7%, and the Republican candidate Reed is at 45%. And then in the attorney general race, and this is the one where the candidate Jones had one of his text messages revealed that he had wished that he said that if he had 3 bullets, he would shoot 2 into the head of the Speaker of the House, the head of the House of Deputies or delegates in Virginia, and that he'd want to see the kids killed of that guy. And so he's a real sweetheart, but he appears to be winning 52.5% to 47.1%. Again, early 24% reporting as of an hour ago. I don't see an update to that here. But Now this is, really just the instant reports or results. Let me see if there's an update. So, I mean, it just says Spanberger is supposed to win in Virginia. That's just the news. Same numbers that I, 54.9% to um, Winsome Sears, 44.5 with 38% of the precincts reporting. They're saying here that they weren't expecting the race to be that competitive. And actually, this is kind of the margin that happened with Democrats uh, prior to the last gubernatorial election and in Virginia 4 years ago. So, and then, this could also be very much a turnout based situation, which we need to go and look at other numbers to figure out what's happened there. Let's see. Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but the socialist in New York, well, he's a communist. We don't really have to to mince words on that one, but so let me see if they have an Associated Press dashboard where they actually show it. Okay, yeah. So they're saying 78% of the votes have been counted in Virginia. It's 56.1 to 43.7 for the Democrat over the Republican. Hashmi, Ghazala Hashmi over John Reed, 54% to 45.7. And Jay Jones is the death threat guy, who's now going to be the Attorney General of Virginia, over a fantastic Cuban American named Jason Miyares, who I think will probably end up getting appointed by the Trump administration to something at some point in D.C., and it'd be great. 48.2%. So, and there's some lower level races like the House of Delegates in Virginia that's there. Let's see here. Trying to see if I can't scan down a little bit more. Okay, so there's some mayoral candidates around the country. Not really sure what any of those mean in particular. We are watching the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to see if they retain these judges who could have sway over whether or not Pennsylvania redistricts or not. And they're 3 Democrat judges, and they just have a vote to retain or not. And the yes vote is in the low 40s right now. So I don't know what that means. It is Mamdani appears to have a 9% lead, estimated with 43% of the vote counted as of. So here we go. Zohran Mamdani, 50.2%. Andrew Cuomo, 40.8%. Curtis Sliwa, 8.2%. So admittedly, had Sliwa not stayed in the race, and if those votes did in fact show up and go to Andrew Cuomo, which is no guarantee of that, maybe he would have eked out a victory based on what I'm saying right now. But, that's Cuomo was definitely a flawed candidate, and they really screwed up on that one. The Democrats did, if they were actually not interested in having a communist. We know that Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House who wants to be speaker a few years from now, he did endorse the communists. So we have a pro-communist leader in the state, in the House of Representatives for the Democrats. Let's see here. So New Jersey governor, let me see if I can get a little bit more information here. Mickey Sherrill, 56.7%. Jack Ciattarelli, 42.6%, with 57% of the votes counted. It's pretty safe to say this one is decisive at this point. I don't see that one drawing closer. So I'm posting each one of these. You guys can actually go and take a look at it. And let me go to the. I want to look again at the attorney general race and just see how that's going, because it's 51.6% to 48% right now, with 78% of the votes counted. And it is fair to say that is probably a done deal, but I don't know where the remaining votes not counted are coming from, and if that margin could close. But that's the only thing that's even close right now. It's really interesting to see where ballots are counted and where the weight of those ballots are. Um, Apparently, uncounted ballots center around Richmond and Norfolk. And I don't know which way Norfolk leans. It looks like it's a combination of some red and some blue. But if you take a look at that last link I just posted, you can see the attorney general race there, and the guy who wished death upon the House of Delegates speaker. So it's kind of a mess tonight. It's a poop sandwich. That's about it, And uh, this is now these are all blue states. So New York City, blue city, deep blue city. New Jersey, traditionally also a blue state. It swung somewhat towards President Trump in 2024, but we don't know what the turnout looks like. If a bunch of those voters who voted for President Trump in 2024 didn't show up tonight, then of course shame on them, but that would explain the state of affairs for the New Jersey governor's race. And let me just see if I can. Yeah, which just isn't that close right now. And they're one of the highest taxed states, New Jersey, so they can count on their taxes not only going higher, but their utility bills are going to go higher. They're going to try to spend more government money and they're going to add more clean energy. They love their offshore wind, which has caused their utility rates to quadruple, and people just voted for more of that tonight. So they will get it. And then, just looking around at the other races here, they've called the race for Virginia governor and lieutenant governor, and I think that's a fair assessment at this point. And they're holding off on New Jersey, but it's a 14-point lead. And the reason why they're able to call the Virginia governor's race, I was kind of listening to this because they had yes, bad poop sandwiches for everyone who voted Democrat. Well, actually, they're gonna get to have their poop sandwich and eat it too, because after they get through this and they have this new leadership, the new leadership is going to spend all their time going to war with President Trump and raising taxes, increasing spending, promoting DEI, and of course, funding expensive clean energy at the expense of ratepayers. So they'll get everything they're looking for and more. And you know what? Sometimes that's when people vote for something, they should get it. That's what they should get. In New York City, they're going to see one of the largest mass exoduses of Jews and of businesses. Not to say those two are connected at all, but Jewish businesses, I can't see them hanging around very long, in all honesty. Once Mamdani six Linda Sarsour on them, who's going to hold him accountable, then it is going to be a mess. Well, I'm not throwing in the towel on Oregon yet. Oregon needs to put the people on trial who have given us all that we have in Oregon, which are entirely Democrats. And I know that's the case in these other blues, in at least in New Jersey and in New York City, but we've got a year to go, and there's a lot ahead of us. And there's an economy that I think is in the hands of somebody who knows how to make an economy boom. Meanwhile, the Democrats are trying to bust the economy, and they're also keeping the government shut down, hoping to maybe stick it to the economy while they're at it. So, so that's the latest on all of these races. I'll keep watching it, but I think we know what the what it looks like right now, and uh, I do believe that maybe this is a wake up call to everybody. So this has always been my biggest beef with Republicans after a victory. Uh, we act like the world has been saved and the superheroes can go back. You can go back to their everyday lives as Clark Kent's and forget about it. Roll over and go back to sleep. The world has been saved. Well, as we can see, communists, lying Democrats, demagogues, DEI advocates, uh, uh, clean energy fanatics, climate change alarmists, and the aforementioned communists and socialists never sleep, and they will constantly, constantly come back and pursue everything they can do uh, to to get back into power because of the government. They're the party of government. So while you were thinking of your private life and your family and all the stuff that you wanted to do, they were figuring out how they could get back into power and screw you over on all of those things all over again. Um, and they just repackaged the stuff they did last time that didn't sell very well. That's what they do. They repackage it. You know, um, why not a little bit of repackaged communism? Like people paying their fair share and Medicare for all. Communism. By the way, this is the the person that is winning the lieutenant governor's race in Virginia is described here as the first Muslim Virginia Attorney General, the Virginia Lieutenant Governor, I should say. So, look, we're going to have a Muslim mayor in America's largest city, and an anti-Semite, and a police defunder. And I hope they get all those things so that they can figure out whether they really like having police protection or not. I don't think the police are going to give their all to do things that involve protecting the interests of the mayor at this point. And I know they still care about the people of New York, but when you get a boss that's hired like that, I can see a lot of police saying, "I'm out of here. I'm retiring. I'm quitting. I'm going to go somewhere where they don't have a communist that wants to defund me running things." And so it remains to be seen. Now, ahead of us still, in terms of election results, is the big Proposition 50 scam in California, and that one is going to be something we got to watch as we get in. So Prop 50, we won't know for another hour and a half, 8 p.m. Pacific time, what those results look like. And so, and there's some propositions around the country. I don't know, like there's some propositions on the ballot in Texas. There's, let's see what these are. So yeah, it's Mamdani is under 50%, by the way. So Cuomo is at about 41.6, and Sliwell is just slightly like 7.9, so almost 8%. So so this would have come down to a very close race if Sliwell had not stayed in. And that's a lesson I hope we learn in some of the elections coming up here next year is having people run as third party spoilers on the right. for Republicans. They just elect Democrats. They might even elect communists. So I'm going to close that one. They've called the race in New Jersey, the AP has, which is totally expected at this point. Citarelli's vote percentage has actually gone down. And yeah. And then let's go here. It's the Attorney General. I'll leave that one open. So Texas Proposition 16, an amendment to the Constitution in Texas, would prohibit people who are not U.S. citizens from voting. For 75% against 25. So 25% actually don't want somebody to come in and neutralize their vote. Just brilliant. Yeah, no, that's a romp right there. And actually take heart on that one. Texas Proposition 15 amendment would establish a right for parents to make decisions regarding their child's upbringing and care. I suspect that has something to do with trans stuff in the schools, but I don't know. But it says for 72.2% against 27.8. Well, I think we know which one's that's going, but that's pretty interesting. Let's go. I'm gonna just keep the California prop thing open. Let's see here. Colorado Proposition MM would raise taxes on people earning more than $300,000 to fund school meal programs and food assistance for people with lower incomes. So just a tax increase on the wealthy, as described here as $300,000 or more. And it's at 56% to 44%, with 54% of the votes counted. So they haven't called that one yet. Remains to be seen, but that's just a plebiscite for socialism. Probably will pass. Colorado's kind of gone off the deep end now. And then there's a couple of ballot initiatives in Maine, which I think are worth having a look at here. Maine question 1. This ballot measure would require voters to show photo identification, require absentee voters to submit a written application before each election, and limit the number of ballot drop boxes to 1 per municipality. That is being defeated about 60% to 40%. So Maine doesn't want to have photo identification and all that other stuff. Probably should have just had something that required photo identification. But sometimes they reach for the fences, swing for the fences. Yes, I know some recent drug busts where police and political figures are involved. But I think that the filibuster, I think they should end it in a clever way just for this particular issue. Because the filibuster, I think what they've done in the past is they've narrowed the use of the filibuster. It used to be the filibuster was used to filibuster presidential appointments. That ended. I think Harry Reid ended it back when Obama was president. Also, the filibuster being used to block the appointment of judges, and that ended. They kept it for the Supreme Court, and then they got to, I think it was sometime, I think it was during President Trump's first term, when the Democrats are filibustering, what's his name? Gorsuch. And the Democrats forced the issue, and the Republicans ended the filibuster for Supreme Court justices. So it's not used for appointments anymore. Those are a majority. Then the other thing is, doesn't apply to the budget process. The Senate and House rules, particularly the Senate rules, have reconciliation whereby a simple majority you can still pass a budget. But it makes sense to me that a continuing resolution, at least of some scope, maybe less than a certain amount of time, maybe after a certain amount of time that a supermajority can't be achieved, that maybe at some point a simple majority is required, or just simply make it that you can't stop a continuing resolution with a filibuster. No one really seems to be justified in using it, whether it's Republican or Democrat. So why not just eliminate it for continuing resolutions and appropriations and stuff like that? And then it's kind of consistent with the budget process. So you can't shut the government. A minority can't shut the government down. What you could have later is split governance, where the president is one party and the House, the Senate could be one or other or both another party, and that could create government shutdowns. But then that's legitimately just a majority. So I think that's what we're going to see. I don't know how soon, but they should end it for this now. And yeah, you're right, Faye. This is an issue potentially of turnout, but we don't know yet who did and didn't vote, and I think we're going to get more data on that here soon. Main question 2: ballot measure would allow law enforcement officers, relatives, or household members to ask a court to issue an extreme risk protection order that temporarily prohibits a person from possessing firearms or other dangerous weapons. That is the red flag law, which we have here in Oregon and hasn't been used very effectively, because whenever there's a mass shooting in Oregon, the people that should have done something to utilize the red flag laws ignored the threatening nature of the person who had the weapon and did nothing about it. And so I think I question whether they're effective because they aren't used effectively for the right purpose, and can be still abused for the wrong purposes, we know. Anyway, that main ballot measure, red flag law, 59.3% to 40.7%. So it's looking like it's going to probably very handily pass in Maine. Maine's, a moderately liberal state, moderate. They have some parts that are conservative. I think they have one congressional district that's pretty liberal, and then they have a U.S. senator who's kind of a moderate, often described as a rhino, Susan Collins. But having said that, and they have had Republican governors there, but they tend to be the very moderate, squishy political variety. So that's just kind of looking across the country and seeing what some of the important numbers are. Now, let's see, there's a congressional district special election, and it looks like it's a heavily Democrat district, so that's why no one's paying attention to it. It has 3 Democrats running and 1 Republican. And the Republican is in 4th place. So that is definitely a overwhelmingly blue district. So when you hear the news reports that say Democrats pull out another one, it's like they pulled out another one that they already had. And so they didn't win anything new there. Let's see here. So I think that's all there is on the election results front. I'll just keep a few of these open just to watch the progress, but I think we know where this is heading, unfortunately, for the country. But I think maybe fortunate that it's a wake-up call, a heads up for the 2026 election. And it's a lesson. I think it could lead to a greater fissure in the Democrat Party, because if moderate Democrats or people who are not moderates, but they're in districts that are far more moderate than they are, don't distance themselves and start to find a way to differentiate themselves from the Mamdanis that are running for office and sometimes running against them, there will be some fracturing of the Democrat party, because they're going to lose some elections around the rest of the country, even though they're winning in deep blue states and cities, which is no great achievement. Mamdani did win the Democrat nomination over Cuomo, and then Cuomo was able to come back and run as an independent. That isn't always possible, by the way. But I do think it means that everybody who's snoozing through the presidency of President Trump and patting themselves on the back because the country's been saved better wake the hell up, because they're going to wake up and find that President Trump is only going to have his first 2 years, and after that, it's going to be constant impeachment, investigations, attempts to reverse all of the policy changes, and certainly all the opportunity to encode into law the changes that President Trump is doing by executive order will not happen. So then when President Otto Penn comes along on the Democrat side in the not too distant future, they'll reverse it all of it. And we'll be back where we started once again, maybe even worse off. So in other news, there was a plane crash, actually. A UPS plane appears to have crashed outside the Kentucky Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. And there are fatalities, which seems almost inevitable for a plane crash like that, and a bunch of injuries, and warn that they don't have any numbers yet. And they don't know the status of the 3-person flight crew, which I think is probably not alive. It happened at about 5 p.m. Eastern. And they're asking people within 5 miles of the airport to shelter in place and remain away from the area, because it's just right outside the airport, or right at the airport where the crash took place. And the shelter in place extends all the way to areas north of the airport to the Ohio River, because Louisville's not on the Ohio River. And there's no talk yet about what the cause is, but it was an MD-11, McDonnell Douglas 11, was going to head to Honolulu, Hawaii. And, it's very fiery, so they really can't say anything right now, in any direction. But I thought, well, let's go ahead and check that out later and see if there's any updates. Here's some additional news that's worth talking about. So, GOP senators have introduced legislation to codify Antifa as a terrorist organization. More than a month after President Trump designated them a domestic terror organization, senators are proposing legislation to codify the president's executive order. See, this is what we've got to do. And if we want to do as much of it as is necessary going forward, we are going to have to make sure that we hold the House and do everything we can to fight to keep the House next year. It's called the Stop Antifa Act. It's all Republicans that are introducing it. It's Ashley Moody and Rick Scott, senators from Florida, Mike Lee from Utah. It would direct the National Joint Terrorism Task Force to investigate Antifa, which I think they're probably well under investigation now, but this might add additional impetus to it and make the designation of Antifa clear. Now, I actually think that what will happen is Antifa will just disappear, and some other group with a different name will pop up later, consisting of the same people and the same bad actors supporting them. But the president's executive order described it as a militarist anarchist enterprise that uses illegal means to organize and execute a campaign of violence and terrorism nationwide to accomplish the goals, which calls for overthrowing the federal government and especially in targeting law enforcement. It's all true. Anybody who has, two brain cells and has been paying attention to what Antifa has been doing and saying in Portland knows all of this. And so I really think that this is time to take this step, and I hope we do get to that point. Let's see. So, Transportation Secretary Duffy said we're going to go after the CDL mills, which CDLs are commercial driver's licenses that are being given in large numbers to illegal immigrants who fail the test, can't read English, can't speak English very well, and are driving trucks around on our roads, in many cases without legal residence in the United States. So he said they're going to go after them. I think it's time. And I think that states that are allowing this to happen, like California, might find their federal funding for transportation going bye-bye, because there's no reason to fund an entity that's actually producing dangerous fatalities on the roads at cross purposes to the goals of providing federal funding for transportation. So, you can read about some of the examples here, but a 21-year-old guy from India was driving an 18-wheeler that never braked before instigating a rear-end collision with 8 vehicles, left 3 dead and 4 others hospitalized. He entered the country through the southern border in 2022 during the Biden administration and was released by Biden into the United States. He's believed to, this other guy that they talked about earlier is believed to have come to America in 2018 and gained a CEL despite no documentation for being in the country whatsoever. So there was another guy by that name who got into the country. So that's what's been happening. Is we don't really know who's come in, and when they come in, we've got states that stupidly give them all this stuff, and they go out and then they drive on our roads and kill people, and someone's responsible. Someone actually is responsible for this, and so they must be held accountable. So in other news, let's see. Capitol Police says it's arrested a suspect for allegedly threatening to kill a member of Congress. Well, that's going to just accelerate now with the guy getting elected Attorney General in Virginia who likes to call for people's deaths because he disagrees with them politically. So this is a 43-year-old in Pennsylvania. They didn't say which member of Congress had been threatened, but it doesn't really matter which member of Congress, and it doesn't matter which party. Although, if I were a betting man, I'm putting it on a leftist. But we don't know. But what we found is that people have not actually been terribly discouraged by Democrat leaders to continue doing this stuff. In fact, Democrats like to argue that they're just mostly peaceful protesters making their voices heard, like they say in Portland all the time. But I think we haven't seen it yet, but we could and may well see members of, if they can go after President Trump twice, how hard is it to go after a member of Congress? It's just not. It's not that hard, sadly. FBI says 2 men are arrested in Harvard Medical School after a building explosion. Early Saturday morning, an officer responded to a fire alarm, encountered 2 people running from the Goldenson building on Logwood Avenue. The explosion occurred in the building's 4th floor, which includes labs and offices associated with the medical school and Department of Neurobiology. And so they really haven't said what that is, except that they did bring in special agents and officers with the FBI Boston's Joint Terrorism Task Force to work with the Harvard University police. And they haven't identified the people's names. Almost always means that they're Muslim. Sorry. It almost always means that. Okay? Like, we can't figure it out. Duh. It's just... the absurdity continues. That's why I mean, if you didn't get the message from the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I hope that some folks out there get the message tonight that the battle goes on and you can lose your country still. President Trump is only president for a short while. 3.3 years to be exact. And two of those might be embroiled in what happened in 2019 and 2020 with Democrats impeaching him and investigating him and passing all kinds of garbage through Congress and shutting down the government and all kinds of stuff. So maybe go back and look at that picture of President Trump saying fight, fight, fight and think, is there more to do? The answer tonight is a resounding yes. Transportation Department warns that the U.S. may close parts of the airspace in the United States if a shutdown continues for another week because of shortages in the air traffic control and TSA systems. That we will see mass chaos, and therefore they'll have to lower the amount of traffic going through there. And guess what's just 3 weeks away? Thanksgiving travel time, the busiest travel time of the year. So I actually predict, and I'm just going to share this prediction with you, that the Democrats are going to cave, at least some of them, and agree to open the government back up. There will be a wink and nod from the Democrat leaders who will still just hem and haw and complain so they can appear to be fighting for their radical leftist AOC base and the Mamdanis of the world. But I think they're going to open the government back up with a promise that there will be a vote within a certain period of time on the extension of the Obamacare subsidies. What I hope Republicans do with that time is bring forward policy that will begin to address the failed Obamacare system, that has the massive premium increases, deductibles, cost increases that they're trying to keep up with in the system, all that stuff that's going on. That is what they need to do. They now have the opportunity to do that and say, well, if you want to extend subsidies temporarily, you have to do this. And maybe they'll be in a better position to negotiate about fixing the system rather than just writing a blank check to the insurance companies, as Obamacare has had the inevitable effect of driving up costs as the availability of healthcare relative to demand there's a shortage, and it's going to get worse, as we know. So anyway, we could see significant areas shut down of the country. The SNAP benefits thing, I think, has largely been resolved, but you can count on the Democrats continuing to gaslight the Trump administration and Republicans over a government that they shut down. So, just going back here, seeing if there's any updates on any of the votes. It's all kind of the same. We're just seeing some fluctuations in the vote totals, a slight downward trend in Mamdani, but also a downward trend in Cuomo. So it's the same news that we knew earlier. And the Associated Press here are, they've got all these great file photos showing a smiling Mamdani. Apparently there's no shortage of that with those photos. And then just them announcing the results of different things that have occurred tonight. There's a discussion about why. I'm not going to listen to that. So anyway, Kevin Dahlgren actually has a really good post that he did on X, and I think everybody should go take a look at it. It is him providing a contrast to of photos and videos and stories of what's going on in homeless, while State Representative Maxine Dexter, the one who said "F Trump, we have to F Trump," um, is claiming that Portland is sunny, beautiful, and peaceful as she stands literally across the water from Portland on a pedestrian bridge. Or I think it might be, there might be a train that goes on that, but whatever. She's standing there saying it's peaceful. She's proud of Portland. Wonderful. She should go and do these reports that she's doing at the ICE building at 11 o'clock at night when it's not raining, because apparently the rain has slowed down some of the protesting and riots. That's where it's all happening. They all do this stuff in the middle of the day and ask, see, it's just like um, what they said not long ago on I forget who gave the example, but said I can show you a beautiful pristine beach in Haiti and tell you Haiti is in perfect shape, everything's wonderful here, come on down. And you get there and you find out that it's crime ridden, impoverished, diseased, squalor, and you're like, wait a second, I saw this great report about what a pristine, and it's like, there it is. That's it. By the way, that was the day the garbage was picked up. That's what's going to be. And so Kevin Dahlgren, who knows a hell of a lot more about Portland than Maxine Dexter, because he goes out and actually talks to people and takes photos. And actually, it's Tara Fall, who is a great photographer and has been taking pictures of people down there to help everyone understand what's really happening on the streets. That's an excellent thing to go check out. It's excellent. So check that one out. Let me see if there's any last updates before we kind of wrap up here. Yeah. The headline on Just the News is that Mamdani crushes Cuomo in New York mayor's race. That's the headline. So, by the way, it looks like Maryland's looking at redistricting, and they're a deep blue state. So the battle's afoot. We'll see where it leaves us next year, but we really have to fight pretty hard if we're going to keep our republic. So Jim Jordan launched a House Judiciary probe into the phone companies that gave a bunch of records on members of Congress, senators and congressmen, to Jack Smith in this Arctic frost investigation. And it was the post-January 6th investigation where Jack Smith and a judge, Judge Boasberg, who, if that name sounds familiar, he's now facing articles of impeachment filed in the House of Representatives by a Texas representative. Boasberg is the same guy who was issuing nationwide injunctions and blocking the Trump administration in the first weeks after he issued some of his executive orders in this term. So Boasberg, he's the guy who was at the center of the Trump administration's efforts to invoke the Alien Enemies Act against the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Boasberg tried to block it in a nationwide injunction. So this guy's a piece of work, and I think he won't get impeached because you need a supermajority of the Senate, even if you can get it through the House. But I actually would like to see those articles of impeachment advance out of the House and bring him to trial in the Senate. We should do it while we can actually show people just how corrupt and awful this guy is. Maybe he'll resign. Oh, yeah. I thank you for mentioning that. I did want to mention Vice President Cheney passed away last night. He had long had illness of pretty bad heart. He had a pacemaker, and even while he was, I think before he was vice president, I think that's when he had the heart problems when he was defense secretary during Bush Sr. And But and they described him here as the architect of the war on terror. Not a fan of President Trump. Trump, not a fan of him. But he did serve our country in many different roles over the decades, and condolences to his family. I think he could have done a better job with both of his daughters, but that's his issue, Liz and Mary. I thought his wife was actually a pretty decent person, but anyway, he says he cast his vote in 2024 for Democrat Kamala Harris. So, I guess if that's how he wanted to be known, then now he is known that way. He was the chief of staff for President Gerald R. Ford. He was a Wyoming congressman. He defended Ronald Reagan during the Iran-Contra scandal. He was defense secretary under George H.W. Bush during the first Gulf War. And he, of course, was vice president during 9/11 and the Bush administration and the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. And Iraq was kind of his baby in many respects. So he described Trump as a coward for his response to losing the 2020 re-election bid. So, you know what? Rest in peace. That's all I can say at this point. It's a disappointment because I thought there were some positives that Dick Cheney brought forward and did, but then, I guess he just decided that he wanted to end it on a low note. Last story, and I think this is maybe the biggest one that I hope actually gets some attention. So everybody watch this one. A Latinx leader who served as the Oregon policy advisor. He was the Oregon policy advisor and was in fact an illegal immigrant convicted of sex crimes. An illegal immigrant convicted of sex crimes, a sanctuary state in Oregon, a sanctuary state for unlawful immigration, held various advisory posts on state policymaking committees and was a supposed Latinx community leader. Juan Pablo Villalobos Garcia is a criminally convicted Venezuelan national who overstayed his visa. And he used to fight for policies such as behavioral health, health equity, health care for all, and regardless of immigration status. And he has now been picked up by the Department of Homeland Security. And he was on Oregon's Community Engagement and Communications Committee for the Universal Health Plan Governance Board. That's right, the single payer system that the Democrats want to stick you with. And so, I guess he was appointed by Tina Kotek, it looks like. So anyway, that just kind of says it all. Oregon, we got a lot to fix here. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. I want to thank you for watching. And anyway, keep fighting the good fight, and tell others to get off their butts and do the same. They better start donating. We're going to refer this gas tax. It's next Wednesday, the 12th, when it'll become law one way or the other, whether she signs it or it just midnight passes. And then we're going to go get signatures, get it on the ballot, and we will have probably 45 days to do it. So get ready. And if you want to be a part of that, by the way, that's notaxor.com, I think. Let me just make sure that you can go and sign up there to make sure you're on the list. And you can also, once it's ready, download the petition. And I recommend that you do, because it's going to take everybody and all of us. And it's going to be a great issue to talk about as we go into campaign year next year. And it should be on the ballot in November of 2026. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. And we'll see you tomorrow night with Don and Leslie on the next episode of The Captive Audience.